had rented a U-Haul truck, and I needed to return that U-Haul truck. And I could have asked for help, but instead I decided to bring my red bike. So I started on my journey, and I enjoyed this ride. It was a really beautiful day. And as I was riding, all of these connections began coming. Some people call them downloads. There were these breakthroughs that were happening that were just very enlightening and beautiful. I came about 2/3 the way home and was about to cross the parking lot to a Home Depot. My left hamstring began to pull or strain, and I had to get off my bike. So I sat in the shade of a tree as I stretched this muscle out and was praying and meditating and being so grateful for the connections that had been made as I was riding, and just feeling very aligned and very connected. I continued to stretch out, and then I got back on my bike and tried to ride the rest of the way, and the moment I pedaled with my left foot, it began to strain again, the left hamstring. So I sat down in the shade of the grass again, and I prayed, and I said, well, God, you must need me here because you're not letting me leave. So prepare me for whatever's coming and help me to be of use. So I continued to stretch out, continued to just be grateful for the beautiful day and for the birds that I could hear singing, and observing the sky and the trees and things around me. And about 5 seconds before what it was that I was there for happened, my heart knew it was about to happen, and so I prayed, guide me. 5 seconds later, I heard shouting, and all hell broke loose in 2 different parts of the Home Depot parking lot. I turned around and saw that about 30 yards from me, there was an old man on his phone behind someone's car. And there was a younger man who was a bit overweight, and later I realized he was very drunk, who came from out of nowhere, it seemed, ran and tackled this old man on the phone to the ground and started kicking and punching him. So my heart leaped, and I was like, this is why I'm here. And so I ran to the old man where this wrestle was going on. By the time I got there, this old man, who appeared to be in his 60s, had this younger drunk man who was much heavier than him, had him in a headlock between his legs. He had flipped him over, and so I just was like, okay, guide me, Father. And pretty soon the drunk man got up and was screaming, effing this, effing that, and spitting, and had keys in his hands and went to get into the car that the old man had been standing behind when I had first come upon the scene, and he was going to try to drive away. So what I did was I was blocking him from driving away, and I stood up, and from his back side, I was just as tall as him, wrapped my arms from around his back and began tapping on his chest, saying, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And I've got him in a grip lock, and he's somewhat relaxing but still resisting because his body is very out of control. And he's in this rage still. So he was able to fight out of that after a short while. He was probably a little confused by it because here I was trying to restrain him from hurting people further, and yet I was doing it with nothing but a mother's love. This man was now down on the ground, and this other guy had come to help. So he was pinned down, and this other guy, as this drunk man was kicking him, flailing his arms and spitting at him and cussing at him, eventually was triggered by this guy and got him in a chokehold and said, in the name of Jesus, I command you to depart. And it was totally out of rage. I mean, this guy that was pinning this drunk man down was raging as well. And I was just observing, grateful he was there to help, but I knew this was not quite not the way that I would handle it, at least. So meanwhile, what I was doing is I was holding the drunk man's left hand. Now, this drunk man was punching with his right arm, kicking with all of his feet, kicking anyone off that came near him, and again, spitting and cursing. And I was holding his left hand, and I was patting it and saying, "It's okay, you are loved. It's okay, it's okay," trying to calm him down. And his left arm was very relaxed. So after this was actually a really tall man that had gotten him in a chokehold, and screamed, "In the name of Jesus, I command you to depart." Really tall, kind of big man. He had to have been 6'5", and I'd say 230 pounds. And when he said that, the drunk man just completely relaxed for a period of about 10 seconds, which seemed like a long time. At this point, I'd been the main one helping to restrain him for about 15 minutes now. I forgot to mention that I actually was defending the drunk man from this tall, strong guy that had been slamming his head and shoulders. I mean, he started to beat him, and so I was there to stop him from beating him to death. Before he got him in that chokehold and said, "In the name of Jesus," he was starting to punch him in the face, and I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." I blocked him. I went right between him and the drunk man, and I said, "We're just restraining him until the police get here so he doesn't take off in his car. We need to keep him safe." And eventually this drunk man just started bawling and said, "She's too young. She's too young. Why did she have to die?" And he ended up talking to me and saying, "My 24-year-old sister took her life 2 weeks ago, and I just can't deal with it." And the old guy that had been on the phone was still on the phone with the police, and he would once in a while come near to the drunk man that was being restrained, now by me on the ground alone, because the really tall guy had been triggered enough that he said, I'm over this," and he left. So there was another man that was also helping restrain him. I don't remember how long he stayed, not very long. He also was triggered enough by the drunk man that he left at some point too. Interestingly, these men were being triggered by this drunk man, and I had nothing but compassion and love from beginning to end. And it would have taken a mother's heart to do that. And so I was placed there at that moment for that reason. So the drunk guy, after he let me know about his younger sister that was his best friend, I said, "I'm so sorry." He said, "Nobody cares. Nobody cares." I said, "I care. I care. And Christ cares." And I immediately looked up to the man that was on the phone with the police and just about ended his call. And he was getting angry because he had been assaulted by this guy who wouldn't be angry, and he was feeling his heart was beating fast. You could tell he was high adrenaline. And I looked over at him and I said, "He just lost his little sister to suicide a couple weeks ago, and he's not coping well. That's why he is in this state." And the older gentleman said, he immediately changed his tone from one of defense to one of compassion. He said, he went up and patted him on the shoulder. He said, "I feel for you, buddy. I just lost my wife it was 2 months ago, I believe." So, anyway, I and another man that had just come recently helped restrain him until the police got there. Come to find out, from beginning to end, the story is that this drunk man had rammed his car into an old couple's car where an old woman had been driving, and he had gotten out of his vehicle and gone and started kicking her in the chest. He'd come through the driver's door and started kicking her in the chest. And she had come over when the police got there, and I started talking to her, and I told her what I had experienced with this drunk man. She let me know that he had already done all this to her, and she was feeling really shaken up, and I let her know my side of what I experienced with him and let her know about him grieving. And she immediately had compassion as well, because she said, Rachel, 2 nights ago I was down on my knees yelling and sobbing and saying, she's too young. Why does she have to die now? And this was to do with her 24-year-old niece who is on her deathbed with some illness. I don't remember if it was cancer or what. And I made the connection. I said, isn't it interesting that this young man's soul was crying out for someone to care? And who could care more than 2 elderly people who are going through just as intense grief as he is going through? And isn't it interesting that in his rage and in his state of drunkenness, he targeted you and this guy over here who is also grieving. I was going through my own type of grief that was really intense at the time too, so I had nothing but compassion, and I knew what real grief and real pain looked like, because I had been feeling it off and on through my own loss in life. So I guess never underestimate the fact that we go through what we go through for a specific reason, that we are placed and that we are where we are meant to be, that all is as it should be. I was well prepared for that scenario in every way. And for a moment, a brief moment, when this drunk man looked over from where he was standing about to get into the police officer's car as he was handcuffed behind his back, I saw a little glare of the demon that was in this man. And I looked at that demon and I said, I love you. And I have a feeling that this drunk man felt that pure love penetrate his heart, to let him know that somebody does care and that he's not forgotten.